Hello, this is Chris Jones, and I'm recording my Unit 3 presentation for Homeland Security HLS6302 at Columbia Southern University under Dr. Thomas Zemek. In the wake of September 11, 2001, President George W. Bush signed into legislation the Uniting and Strengthening America by Providing Appropriate Tools Required to Intercept and Obstruct Terrorism Act on October 26, 2001. Better known as the USA Patriot Act, it enhanced the capabilities of government entities in efforts against terrorism and allowed for the revision of the standards for government surveillance, increased federal law enforcement capabilities to access private records, enhanced electronic surveillance authority for such aspects as email, electronic address books, and computers, permitted roving wiretaps by investigators of any individual telephone conversations on any phone anywhere in the country, required banks to identify the source of deposits in private accounts, and required foreign banks to report suspicious transactions, nationwide search warrants, deportation of immigrants who raised funds for terrorist organizations, and the detention of immigrants without charge for up to 1 week on suspicion of supporting terrorism. Following the enactment of the USA Patriot Act of 2001, watchdog organizations and conservative Americans became weary of the Patriot Act impacts on civil liberties. As a result of such concern, the United States lawmakers required the Department of Justice to submit reports regarding the impact upon civil liberties. In 2005, the House of Representatives and the Department of Justice advocated restriction of the Patriot Act's abilities regarding access to personal records without warrant. As a result, the USA Patriot Improvement and Reauthorization Act of 2005 was enacted. Congressional oversight and proactive management of renewal processes for the USA Patriot Act were enacted to counterbalance enhanced authority of the executive branch previously granted under the Patriot Act. Following, the USA Patriot Act was renewed by Congress in March 2006, following the USA Patriot Improvement and Reauthorization Act of 2005. I believe the initial Patriot Act has outlived its usefulness as it infringes on civil liberties and rights. However, this is also shown via the revision of the Patriot Act over the years. However, I do feel that the USA Patriot Act served a strong purpose in safeguarding America. The enhanced capabilities regarding surveillance, in my opinion, however, should only be conducted due to appropriate suspicion and with oversight approval. The Uniting and Strengthening America by Fulfilling Rights and Ending Eavesdropping, Dragnet Collection, and Online Monitoring Act of 2015, the USA Freedom Act, was introduced in 2013 and was a reaction to the leak of classified National Security Agency, NSA, material by Edward Snowden earlier in the year. This information leak revealed that the NSA engaged in bulk data collection of telecommunication records, telephone records, and internet data. These exposed actions by the NSA served as an example of unacceptable actions by intelligence agencies on the private communications of Americans. The USA Freedom Act imposed strict limits on bulk data collection of telephone records and internet metadata by intelligence agencies. It also limited government collection of data from specific geographic locations and specific telecommunications service providers. The Act continued the practice of authorizing roving wiretaps and efforts to track possible lone wolf terrorists. In light of the USA Freedom Act and its birth of a proven misuse of provisions by the NSA, I firmly believe the USA Patriot Act infringes upon civil liberties with special consideration upon information and communications privacy. However, I also believe that such capabilities have a purpose today. The difference lies with regulation and authorization. For example, the USA Freedom Act continued to allow roving wiretaps in order to track potential lone wolf terrorists. As evident globally today, terrorist organizations and lone wolf terrorists continue to be a constant threat. I firmly believe that such surveillance and capabilities should be restricted, but also permitted under much oversight. In consideration for the revisions of the Patriot Act in 2005 under the USA Patriot Act, Improvement and Reauthorization Act, I have chosen to examine a federal court case beginning in 2004 in which provisions made by the Patriot Act were examined for violating constitutional rights. In the federal court case of Doe versus Holder, originally filed under Doe versus Ashcroft, it examined the constitutionality of the Patriot Act modifications to Section 2709 of Title 18 of the United States Code, which permitted the FBI to send national security letters, or NSLs, to institutions and entities to require customer private information whenever the FBI certifies that such information was relevant to an authorized national security investigation. Further, under Section 2709, allowed NSLs to be utilized as a subpoena, which also barred the recipient of the NSL from disclosing any such information that an NSL had been received. Therefore, not only did the Patriot Act require the disclosure of personal information, but also placed a gag order upon the recipient of any such NSL or national security letter. In 2004, the New York Civil Liberties Union was made aware of an internet service provider that had received an NSL under the authority of the USA Patriot Act. A suit was filed in 2004 by both the recipient and the NYCLU, claiming the FBI had, under Section 2709, violated the First, Fourth, and Fifth Amendment by allowing the FBI to obtain private information without any form of judicial review. Further, the non-disclosure provision is an unlimited suppression of free speech that violated First Amendment rights. On December 15th of 2008, and after much debate, the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Second Circuit upheld the district court ruling that the NSL in question wrongfully placed a gag order on the recipient, and in 2010, the FBI partially lifted such gag order on its initial recipient, Nicholas Merrill. Established on March 1, 2003, in the wake of September 11th terrorist attack, the Department of Homeland Security was the largest government restructuring since World War II. Initially funded to address the concern of terrorism, the Department of Homeland Security has adopted a more all hazards approach as it evolved, and today, this cabinet department encompasses 22 agencies that addresses concerns from terrorism to natural disasters. Its mission statement is, "With honor and integrity, we will safeguard the American people, our homeland, and our values." In 2011, the DHS released an analysis of their progress regarding its initial concerns. Although continued efforts and improvements were needed, key areas such as information sharing, risk-based strategies for transportation security, cyber safeguarding, and border security were identified as areas that the DHS had improved upon during its first 10 years in operation. However, some controversy surrounds the DHS's handling of immigration, border security, and especially climate security. As an example, in their 2023 article, New, Old, and Reconfigured, exploring the U.S. Department of Homeland Security's path to climate security, Osaka and Denham asserted that climate change represents a known threat multiplier, and while the DHS has adopted an all-hazards approach, there are significant variations and shortcomings between FEMA, Border Control, and the Transportation Security Administration in regard to climate change. Looking to the future, and with the previous material I've presented in mind, the next 20 years of Homeland Security investigations provides great opportunity for improvement. Since September 11, 2001, the USA Patriot Act served a needed purpose, but also represented constitutional violations of Americans. As a 19th century British politician, Lord Acton said, "Absolute power corrupts absolutely." The next 20 years represents an opportunity for the Department of Homeland Security to fine-tune their capabilities of safeguarding America with an all-hazards approach, while also safeguarding the constitutional rights of Americans. I anticipate such efforts as greater oversight, greater checks and balances, more community involvement from the private sector, and a greater outreach to the public regarding the mission of the DHS. Thank you.